Coming up next on this special Election Day edition of Arizona Horizon, see the best of our clean elections debates among candidates running for Arizona's top state offices. A Vote 2014 special next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this special Vote 2014 edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Arizona Horizon has a long history of presenting you the information you need to make an informed choice when you cast your ballot. Part of that tradition is hosting debates for statewide offices. Our debates are conducted in a conversational format that's designed to highlight a candidate's ideas even as those ideas are questioned and at times challenged by opponents in a live TV setting. Here now are the best of Arizona Horizon's clean elections debates among candidates running this year for statewide offices.
Obviously a debate, so we should mix it up a little bit. I want to talk about the two ideas that Doug has put on the table. The first is the notion that we can capture hundreds of billions of dollars in reorganization of state government. I was part of Governor Babbitt's staff when we created DES, and it was the effort to do just that, to collapse agencies. We lost Children Protective Services in the process. Sometimes these agencies stand independently so that you have accountability. I don't want to see those kinds of loss of accountability again. And secondly, the notion that we're not going to fill state positions as they become open is a foolish risk. I mean, are we not going to replace DPS officers on the border? Are we not going to replace children welfare services when people retire? Are we not going to replace corrections officers when they retire? That's a very dangerous idea.
The notion that we wouldn't put children first or public safety first is just a distortion of what I'm talking about. 80 separate agencies representing over $1 billion in annual spending. And anybody that doesn't think that government can't tighten its belt a bit and we can't do better in some of these bloated bureaucracies. So I think we need to review everything that we're doing and look at the core functions. That's why I talk about our education system, kickstarting our economy, and moving Arizona in the right direction. We can do a whole lot better than we're doing today, Ted.
The current governor pushed for a temporary sales tax hike when she thought it was necessary, and the voters said, okay, that one time. Would you push for a temporary tax hike of any kind if this education funding became a burden?
I will not raise taxes, and we will fund K-12 education. And we can do this. I'm looking at this budget at the next fiscal year. We have the dollars available, but I'll tell you what we have to do, Ted. We have to kick-start our economy. We need to get it moving in the right direction. There's only one candidate at the table that's been endorsed by the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. These are business and job creators, large and small. The way to grow our economy is to reform our tax code and simplify it, to lighten regulation, and to make burdens less on the small business owner.
Make sense to you?
Look, I think you've got to be honest with voters about the choices. And Doug is proposing that we take the income tax to zero. It is 40% of the state budget. It means cuts to K-12.
That's not accurate, Fred.
Medicaid is voter protected. And so if you want to seek a zero to income tax, you are going to cut K-12 education. I don't think you're being candid
but
about
that's not accurate. I have been candid. I said I would like to improve our tax code. I think we should have a tax code that looks like somebody wrote it on purpose. I think we should simplify our tax code, flatten it, make it more fair. My opinion is it's the viewers' money. They earned it. I want them to keep more of it. We can go in a better direction with our tax code, but it's going to take time. I've said it's going to take a term or two as governor. It's going to take a growing economy, and it's going to take a more effective government. Fred, you've proposed $4 billion in additional spending, and you say that you won't raise taxes. So please tell me how that works.
That's a ridiculous notion. What I'm saying is we should enforce the Supreme Court decision, which has said the voters had it right. The voters are clear in their intention.
$320 million.
That we pay back these schools for the cuts that we took. You want to appeal it. You want to defy the order.
Because
you are looking for every opportunity not to invest in public
education.
education.
That's true. I want to do it responsibly.
The question started with half-cent sales tax. You opposed it.
Yes.
Those would have all been more cuts to our schools.
I'm not for tax increases.
They would have all been more cuts to our schools. Every opportunity you've had to make the commitment to education, you've been on the other side.
I have sat on the board for Teach for America. I've sat on the State Charter School Board, a trustee at Arizona State University. I have a commitment to education. education. I want to spend the dollars responsibly and get them to the classroom supporting the teacher, not just blow more money into these bureaucracies.
Barry, please.
Yeah, enough of the ouch, quit it stuff. Good Lord.
It's a spirited debate.
No, what we've got to talk about is redefining education in Arizona. We're last in the nation, and our nation is down there in the world, like 39th or 41st. We used to be number one. And I think a lot of it has been they've gotten us away from the competitive schools. That's the whole way that innovation and imagination comes into play. And I'm sure we're going to talk about Common Core at some point. But when you're talking about funding it, it's really not about the money. It's about restructuring it. I mean, I know that when we had lots of money going into the schools because of Jan Brewer, we saw tuitions at college going up incredibly. How did that translate to the students? I think a more ubiquitous kind of education is a lot smarter. MIT started it, you can't argue with them, and it's distance learning, where they're showing that through distance learning you can get a far better education than the brick and mortar counterparts without the spreading of disease, without the spreading of bad behavior, without the logistics of security and all the other stuff that comes with these government schools.
John, the idea, I know you've got business connections here, but you better have a lot of connections to make up for hundreds of millions of dollars year after year.
Actually, I do. I have an omnibus plan, which is a plan that I created, and I believe that will take people with the dream of a business or the dream of growing their existing business and put them into the 5-year plan of where they can go public if they'd like to and retire, become CEOs, pull in $1 million a year paycheck. I believe my plan is that solid and that good. As far as the industries, the hemp industry, we need to legalize hemp. That is not a smokable plant, but it is a product that will replace everything from rubber to fiberglass to create biofuels. And that's huge. That's an industry well into the trillions of dollars.
Terry Goddard over here kind of mentioned discrimination and mentioned that being perhaps a problem as far as the election landscape. Do you see that as an issue, as a problem?
Well, we see, especially, let's take for example, on the Navajo reservation. When we come up with things on the state level or in the county level, and some of it is new and interesting stuff. Take for example the permanent early voting list. You need to go and then educate people, sometimes in their own language. And when we go and visit other counties and visit other areas, sometimes they don't know about the new tools that are available and access to the different ways to vote, only because it hasn't been spoken to them or educated to them in their language. So there's barriers that perhaps we don't know about because people aren't out visiting these communities.
You mentioned discrimination. What did you mean?
I mean very serious discrimination. I mean against students who have to vote a federal ballot. They're treated as second-class citizens in the state of Arizona. I'm talking about independents who, as we've agreed, have to petition for a ballot every election to vote in the primary, as is their right. But I'm talking also about other citizens that, for instance, Senate Bill 1062. Was an effort to discriminate against some of our fellow citizens, the gay and lesbian community. It seems to me that's absolutely wrong, and it is something that cannot be reflected in the Secretary of State's office. We have to make a clear statement that the office is totally fair, totally calls balls and strikes absolutely equally, and has no partisan or other discriminating factor. And that's not the way it's been played for the last 20 years. That's been, unfortunately, the legislature and the Secretary of State have worked together to set up a system that is, as I said, a mess.
You voted for 1062. Why?
1062, bad vote. I mean, I've been in the legislature 12 years, Ted. And by my rough calculations, I've cast over probably 10,000 votes. So I think it's kind of a little, probably, I would say, inappropriate and perhaps a little unfair to go through and cherry pick, in a little half an hour program to cherry pick a couple of votes and
If people think though it's a discriminatory bill and
what would
a chief elections officer wouldn't be fair if they voted for a discriminatory bill, would you think that would be not a valid argument?
1062 would be discriminatory against people voting how? I guess how do you draw the nexus of
Well, I think-
1062
I don't think it's the
discriminating
voting
people
aspect.
against
It's
voting?
discrimination and you being a chief. I'm talking about your critics here. I'm not debating you here. I'm talking about what others are saying, including the gentleman across. Why don't you go ahead and say it, because I don't want to take
Civil
part in
rights
the
is a
debate.
package, Ted, and Senator Reagan, because I think we know from experience in the Deep South, in the civil rights era, that access to a lunch counter and access to an equal seat on a bus and voting rights are all tied up in the same package. So you can't say somebody doesn't get a full set of equal rights in one area and then say, oh, but by the way, it's okay for voting, because it isn't.
But there folks, critics on the other side, say the bill was mischaracterized. It basically designed to protect religious freedoms, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the Secretary of State's office.
Oh, absolutely has everything to do with the Secretary of State's office, because the Secretary of State, if the Secretary of State is not making it clear to all the citizens of Arizona that they are going to be absolutely fair in the execution of the voting laws, that every vote is counted and every individual is equal, the message that goes out is going to have what we have today, which is a rapidly decelerating number of people participating because they have no
Let me
confidence
tell
in
you
the
what
system.
message is being sent, not today, but right now. The message is being sent is a hyper-partisan message, and a message of, let's take, again, 1 vote, 2 votes, 3 votes. You can go through the 10,000 votes and find a couple. And let's blow them up and try to make people angry. And let's try to look backwards. And let's try to upset people. And that's the kind of stuff that turns people off from politics, from public policy, from government. The exact opposite of what a Secretary of State or Secretary of State candidate should be doing.
Well, I've never
when
heard
we're-
of a legislative
When we're
mulligan
talking
before.
about the Office of Elections, it should be, of all the statewide offices, it should be the least partisan, the least let's go stir the pot office that there is.
Attorney General is obliged to protect and defend all of Arizona's laws. All of those laws. Are you prepared to do that even if some of those laws you disagree with, even if some of those laws you may think are unconstitutional?
Absolutely. I think that as the Attorney General, the law is what the law is. Former Attorney General Bob Corbin, Arizona's longest serving Attorney General who endorsed me, he was very fond of saying is, what does the law say? I have said, and I've consistently said this, that I will be there not only to defend Arizona's laws, regardless of what I personally think, but I will be there to defend us against the overreach of the Obama administration. And when we see what's happening, I always like to say that if you don't like the law, change the legislature. In Arizona, we have an initiative process. You can change the governor, but as Attorney General, you have to enforce the law, period.
Same with you?
Yes,
Even laws you
absolutely.
don't agree with?
Even laws I don't agree with, I will enforce them.
If 1062 comes around the bend again, you going to help protect that and defend that?
I will defend it. However, I will go on record again that it's not that it is unconstitutional and that it's not in the best interest of the people of Arizona. That is an opportunity for the Attorney General to show a leadership position. That's the reason why Mr. Brenovich is an ideologue. He has the backing of the Kathy Harrods, the Center for Arizona Policy, the anti-women, anti-gay, anti-immigration groups that are hopeful that he'll get in there because they need someone like him who will do their bidding and make sure these ideological laws that are bad for the state, that Governor Brewer vetoed, should not happen. We are talking about why Mr. Brenovich is wrong for the state of Arizona.
Going to do their bidding, apparently?
This is really, it's almost comical, quite frankly. Frankly, what I said when 1062, when I was asked about it, I would said, as Attorney General, I would defend the law. Now, my opponent said it was unconstitutional. She kind of hemmed and hawed, and now she's apparently come around to that position. I guess that's because she's spending a lot of money on polling, according to her latest finance report. And Ted, I think that's the problem Arizonans have with politicians. One, they just try to attack the other person, and then they try to use polls to tell people what they want to hear. I do know this, is that when President Obama sued us over 1070, my opponent was silent. She was running for Attorney General in 2010. When her union bosses wanted to boycott Arizona, she said nothing. I think Arizonans want an Attorney
that is
General
not
that's
true.
going to stand up for
That is
Arizona.
Let's
not
go to this
true.
UFCW thing and
Yeah.
regarding a connection there
Yes.
and them wanting to boycott Arizona, and you took a donate. What's that all about?
You know, I don't know. because I was on record since at the very beginning that I would defend SB 1070. In the debates here on your show, I said that. And you know what? You have misrepresented me in so many ways, Mark. And to say that I'm an Obama ally is just ridiculous. You know who's reading the polls? It's Mr. Brnovich. He ran against Tom Horne because he was the second most unpopular person in the state, according to the polls. And now he's trying to run against Obama because he is running lower than Mr. Horne. So this is a man who follows the polls. This is a man who, other than the dark money coming in, would not be here today.
You know what, I'll tell you what, Ted, no one worked harder in the primary than I did. You know that mathematically you got about a 1-2% chance of beating someone in your own party, but I took it on because it was the right thing to do. When I was traveling all over the state, putting 50,000 miles on my car, that was something that we did, not something else somebody else did. And let me just say this, when I was a prosecutor, there was an old saying we had, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. And so my opponent can sit there all she wants and say that I'm misrepresenting her record, but she first became a Democrat when Jimmy Carter was president. You've been a Democratic for 4 decades. Your campaign manager is the former executive director of the Democratic Party. You yourself have given money to people like Al Franken and Raul Grijalva, the who's who, the rogues gallery of the left.
Let's go back to the conservative editorial board of the Arizona Republic that called Mr. Brnovich out for doing this very thing, for being political, for being a typical politician, by trying to say that I'm an Obama ally when my 20-year record of in the trenches is all about working across party lines and all about doing the right thing for the people of Arizona.
But she was unwilling to stand up and criticize Obama when he sued Arizona. And you talk about bipartisanship. You're donating money to liberal Democrats.
You know, let's talk
Those
about
are the
the
facts.
issues.
You are against Common Core. Why?
I'm against Common Core for many reasons, because number one, it's not going to prepare our children the way it needs to. It's untested, unproven. It hasn't been shown to be internationally benchmarked. We were made a lot of promises in the beginning when it was put into place. When it was put into place, sight unseen. And that's not going to help our children.
You've mentioned it rivals what's been done in communist China. You really believe that?
I was making the comment about data collection, and where they say Common Core is one issue, it's not. It encompasses all of education, and it has a massive data collection system included with it.
The idea that Common Core is a top-down government control of our education system, you agree?
Ted, if high academic standards were top-down, federally driven, akin to communist China, I would be against them as well. The reality is that's not what they are. What academic standards are simply what students need to know and be able to do at the end of each grade level. We've had standards in Arizona for over 20 years, and every version has been better and modified from the one before. And what my opponent is advocating is that we go back to essentially AIMS and standards that are insular, that apply only to Arizona. And as I mentioned, the reality is our students need to be ready to compete outside of Arizona, and Arizona businesses need workers that are going to attract business from other states in order to invest in Arizona.
Respond, please.
To assume that we don't know how to teach our children the skills here in Arizona, and that there aren't some skills that are absolutely, I'd say, countrywide, nationwide, universal, is just a ridiculous contention. We had Arizona standards. It's a shame that my opponent doesn't know the difference between the Arizona standards we had and the AIMS test, which was where the breakdown was. But that we have standards now that we can't control, we can't change, and we can't make sure they work for Arizona, that's a huge problem for Arizona education.
Ted, even within my opponent's party, her position is extreme. Folks are ready to implement the high academic standards in the way that is best for Arizona. States develop these standards, states can change them. And I will tell you, I am ready to be in a position as a national leader to make sure that our academic standards work best for Arizona.
But the idea that Common Core was snuck through in the dead of night with no public debate, and the parents were knocked out of the loop as far as discussing this and implementing this, and this again is President Obama's way of trying to get into Arizona education?
And absolutely not. You can go back, and there were public hearings by the State Board of Education and even across crosswalk from the Arizona academic standards to the Common Core standards so that the public could understand what was changing. This is a continuation of academic standards that we've had for a long time. And at this point, if we want to get our students ready for life after high school and our state in the best position to be competitive and strong, we must benchmark to national standards.
We did not have public hearings. I was on a school board, and I absolutely believe that the first people that would have heard would have been school boards. When it was brought in, the Race to the Top application, we were never told that it would totally dismantle education the way that we know it. And I can't help but wonder when my opponent speaks about national leadership, if he's just looking for this position to be an opportunity to jump to another level, where I'm committed to the parents and the students of Arizona.
Ted, let me be clear for just a second. I have never run for office. My opponent has run twice and has lost twice. This is my first time. I'm not running for an office. I'm running for this office because I'm best qualified in order to move our state forward in education.
Does it matter who's behind something like Common Core if Arizona educators want it, and if Arizona parents want it, and if Arizona students are educated by it?
First of all, we have absolutely nothing to prove that Arizona students are being educated by it to a higher standard than we had before. We are overwhelmingly hearing from Arizona parents that no, they don't want it for their children. They're disappointed, they're angry that it was snuck in at the dead of night without their input. There were no public hearings. And now it's about time we ask the parents of Arizona what they expect for their children, and not academia telling them what they must expect.
Untested, snuck through, it's not good for Arizona.
Let's be clear again. We've had academic standards now for 20 years, and every iteration has been better than the one before. I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters in elementary school, and I want them to be ready to move into a 21st century economy.
Utilities regulated by the Corporation Commission. Should those utilities regulated by the Commission be allowed to use ratepayer money, funds for ads promoting candidates and promoting issues?
Well, let's be clear about something. And this is the case with all utilities. Ratepayer money does not get used for that purpose. That is not something that the companies are allowed to do. But the companies that are providing these services in many cases are investor-owned companies. In other words, APS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Pinnacle West. Pinnacle West is a company, and what Pinnacle West decides to do with profits that they might make is up to them.
It's up to them, but is it a good thing for the Arizona ratepayer to have them involved with candidates and issues?
First of all, I think what you're alluding to is some of the stuff that talks about the fact that APS essentially has bought the election for Tom and I. That's absolutely not the case.
You know that's not the case.
I don't know what APS's involvement has been, but what I do know as a result of spending a lot of time on the campaign trail, 15 counties we've campaigned in, we have the broad support of the business community. We have the broad support of many consumers. And from my perspective, I look at it as our message has broad support across a lot of constituencies out there. So it's not just the utilities.
The answer to your question is absolutely not. But APS has not been they have not come out and said, we are not putting money into that race. They have not said that. So, you know, we talk about what APS, it's an integrity issue. And what I would like to see as a commission, and I'm wondering why the current commission hasn't done this. Why haven't they called APS in? Why haven't they called the CEO in and say, hey, kind of tell us what's going on? Are your ratepayers going to pay for all the money you've put out?
Do you think should APS be compelled to show those things?
Absolutely. I've written several letters to the commission saying, Commission, you could order this tomorrow. And in fact, not just the commission. Individual commissioners have subpoena power. We only need one commissioner to say, I want to see this information. So, you know, to some degree, we respect the law of the land. They can make a contribution. But if they are making a contribution in an attempt to buy the election of their regulators, that needs to be publicly known.
Should the commission be ordered, should order APS
The commission
not to
should order
donate
it.
to candidates or issues?
I don't know that they have that authority. That's a touchier issue. I think it's worth talking about. Personally, I don't think they should. And in the past, they hadn't. APS, all the other utilities had a policy of we will not make contributions.
Right.
They've changed that. They've clearly changed it. And we should go back to that.
Yeah, but the idea that it's impossible that we have broad support is insulting. The idea that we could be bought is insulting. Okay, I'm calling you out on it.
Well, Tom,
stop.
I haven't
I'm talking.
heard you
I'm
deny
talking.
it
call
either.
out, but
Hold on,
clearly it
let
has happened.
let him finish.
I'm
Let him
done
finish.
here. It's insulting. I think we have broad support. I don't have a problem with asking them to show who it is. I look forward to that information more than anybody else does. I believe it's broad support. I believe that if we have a message of balance, we have a message of responsibility, and that resonates with a lot of folks, not just the business community, the ratepayers.
All right.
What we need to call out is APS. I mean, I'm not saying anything about my opposition candidates, but clearly the money's been put in. The money helped buy the primary election. It's given an enormous benefit. It's 10 times the money the candidates themselves had. This shouldn't have happened.
You say it's insulting, but should there not be concern among ratepayers that people that are going to be regulating that utility might be getting money, whether they know it or not, from the utility?
I'm the beneficiary of that spending, and I have concerns about it.
Sandra, what do you think?
I think my two opponents could call APS out and say, hey, what are you doing? Call them out and say, stop it. But they haven't done that.
That's coordination. That's illegal.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on this special Election Day edition of Arizona Horizon. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.